Good morning. You know, there's a lot of bad news out there, but in some respects, there's never been a more exciting time to be alive. Recent developments in brain imaging technology mean that we now understand more about the brain than we ever could before. What does this mean? The brain is the new frontier of exploration. It's a bit like sending a man to the moon, but in my mind, it's kind of more exciting. You know, consider this. We each of us have on our shoulders a lump of grey matter containing 100 billion neurons. Compare that with the population of the planet, which is 8 billion neurons. It seems like this system that we have on our heads is more sophisticated than the entire world's population. It's amazing. Now, the obvious question which arises is, if I've got 100 billion neurons on my shoulders, why can I never find my car keys? Now, here's another thing. Our brains contain sophisticated electronic circuitry called neural pathways, and we now know that they're not fixed. We can change them by learning new skills. In 2004, the University of Regensburg in Germany carried out an interesting experiment involving juggling. They got a group of people who'd never juggled before, and they taught them how to juggle. Actually, the first thing they did was scan them, then they taught them how to juggle. They sent them away for 3 months, and then they brought them back, and they scanned the brains again. And they discovered that part of the brain which is involved in juggling had grown significantly, which is responsible for detecting visual motion. Okay? So we've got this hugely sophisticated thing on our shoulders, and it's malleable. We can upgrade it by learning new skills. Notice that in that example, there was no man with a screwdriver. Okay? It was a hardware upgrade, not a software upgrade, but nobody undid the brain. It happened naturally. Nature did it. All these people did was practice. Okay? So what does this mean? Does it mean we should all learn to juggle? Well, we could do. But I think there's a much bigger opportunity out there that we're missing. Something that could really change society for the better. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about this morning. Okay? It all comes down to consciousness. So let's understand a bit more about consciousness and how human consciousness differs from animal consciousness. And we'll start with birds. Imagine a flock of swallows, okay? Maybe you're out on an autumn walk, the sky's beautiful, and overcome this beautiful flock of swallows. Swallows are trained to migrate in the autumn, and they're on their way. Where are they going? They're going 5,000 miles to Botswana and South Africa. When I discovered how far they went, I just couldn't believe it. It's a hugely perilous journey. Many die on the way of starvation, exhaustion, or just in storms. But all UK swallows, our population of 1 million swallows, they do this journey every year. Compare that with us, human beings, okay? We can choose to fly south in the winter if we want to, but thanks to low-cost airlines, other destinations are available. We can fly somewhere else if we want. And we're doing a much, much better job than swallows at looking after our children. You just have to look at the decline in infant mortality to recognize that. If you look at any developed country, okay, I'll just show you a graph of what the decline in infant mortality in the 20th century looked like, okay? It looks like a swallow's dive, like this. Okay? Do we have any Arabic members in the audience? I'll do that again for you, you know, reading the other way around. It go all like this. So, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that swallows have a low consciousness. We have a much higher consciousness, which is why we can choose to fly south and they can't. So let's understand this conscious thing a little bit more. What is consciousness? the best definition I've come across was by Portuguese neuroscientist Antonio Damasio, and he described consciousness as a movie playing inside your head, which begins when you wake up in the morning and plays through until you go to sleep at night, or lose consciousness for some other reason. So there are three elements to that, okay? This is the movie playing out on the screen, and then there's this seeing going on, and then there's you sitting in your seat doing the seeing, okay? Where are you in this? Well, you're in all three places at once. You're involved in the movie, you're doing the seeing, and you're also sitting in your seat observing yourself doing the seeing. It's hugely sophisticated. Well, how does this work? I'd love to tell you the answer, but I can't, because nobody knows the answer. There are lots of really clever people looking into this, and we seem to be edging towards an understanding of consciousness, but as yet, nobody really understands how this works. Whoever gets it first will get a Nobel Prize, absolutely. But for me, that's not the most important thing. And for lots of other people, well, for any normal person, understanding consciousness is great, and it's a wonderful thing, but it's not really going to make a huge impact on our lives. What really concerns me is the quality of my consciousness. And what I mean by that is, how present am I in the moment? That affects my experience in the world, my relationship with other people, and their relationship with me. Okay? Quality of consciousness. The idea that there could be different qualities of consciousness or different types of consciousness is very, very old. It goes back more than 4,000 years to ancient Vedic civilization in India. They believed that there were 7 levels of consciousness. And the idea of life was that you climbed the consciousness ladder. And you grew your consciousness as you grew through life. Now, neuroscientists haven't really gripped onto this. Let me put it in context by telling you a bit about my own consciousness story. In 2011, Steve Jobs died. In 2012, his biography came out. I jumped on it because I'm a business mentor and I wanted to understand something about the most successful businessman in my lifetime. And I read the book, and first thing I noticed was that I seemed to have all his bad qualities. And that made me happy in a way, because that obviously wasn't holding me back. The second thing that I noticed was that he was a meditator. And I'd always thought about taking up meditation, but I'd never quite got round to it. So I thought, okay, well, now's the time. Bit of a problem. Didn't know anybody who meditated, so I started asking around. Finally, I found a client of mine who was a meditator, hadn't been doing it very long. I said, how's it going? Okay. You know, are you people good? Yes, they're good. Okay. So next thing, I'm going to a meeting to find out more about it, and I've signed up for a beginner's meditation course. So that tells you what? Meditation's just like football. I bet that more than half the audience in the here support a football club. Nobody went onto Google and looked at the stats before deciding which club to join or support. It's too important a decision than that. For something really important like that, we ask somebody important. Parent, sister, classmate. That's same with meditation. Big decision. Okay, so going back to my story, for the first few months, I had this little voice inside my head telling me this was a pretentious waste of time. And what was I doing? And yeah, I'm doing it wrong. Luckily, my teacher was fantastic, and she just told me this was normal, so I carried on. After a bit, I went to India with them, and then the voice quietened down, things became a bit nicer. You know, I began to have some of these pleasant experiences people talk about. And I also began to learn about Vedic civilization, which is 4,000 years older. There's nothing else like it on the planet, something that's intact from 4,000 years ago, come down to us today. So now I've been meditating for about 5 years, and I believe I've experienced improvements in my life in many respects, but I can't say for sure whether that's down to getting older or eating better, or something else. It might be any of those things. The only thing I can say is that I tend to excite a bit of curiosity with people. People think I've got something, and they don't quite know what it is, and they'd like to know. But it might just be that I wear stupid glasses. I don't know. There are other people like me on the planet who are doing this as well. Lots of people doing mindfulness things, a lot of them pretty smart people. And that might be helping them feel a bit better, but ultimately, they probably don't know whether that's doing them any real good either. So my question is, wouldn't it be great if there was some way we could measure the results of all this activity? Well, of course there is. The technology exists, but it's just not available to us ordinary people. There have been plenty of studies about meditation, and they've demonstrated that, that meditation makes changes in the brain. The leader in this area is a lady called Sarah Lazar from Harvard. She did a study where she took a group of people who had never meditated and put them on a course, sent them away to meditate for 7 weeks, and when she got them back, she discovered that the following changes in the brain. Okay? First of all, the left hippocampus, which is a thing like a seahorse that sits on top of your spine. The left hippocampus is responsible for learning, memory, and emotional regulation. Then the temporal parietal cortex, which is temporal parietal junction, which is roughly here. Okay? That is responsible for perspective, empathy, and compassion. And then the other thing she found was that the amygdalas on these people had got smaller. Now, I don't know, most of you probably know what an amygdala is, but just let me tell you, it's the thing that regulates your fight or flight mechanism. So a smaller amygdala meant that these people were less stressed. Sits in about there. In another study, Sarah found that meditators tended to have larger prefrontal cortexes than the general population. The prefrontal cortex is the thing that you use for fine judgment and decision making. So taken together, this collection of benefits seems to me to correspond quite closely to my definition of higher consciousness, which, as I said, was being highly present in the moment, being aware of what's going around you, picking things up. Interestingly, it also corresponds quite closely with some of the two main features of high consciousness under Vedic tradition, which is having a broader spectrum of awareness and being able to appreciate the finer distinctions between things. So what I'm saying is it looks like higher consciousness is something that you can leave physical traces on the brain, which you can pick up on a brain scan. It's pretty interesting. Other studies have found that meditation produces general health benefits, like less susceptibility to stress-related diseases, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer. So, what's the conclusion? Well, I think that the fact that we can pick up higher consciousness on a brain scanner, that it leaves physical traces on the brain, is a massive idea and something that we can use to really push meditation in this country. And I think if we did that, meditation could go viral. And I'm not talking about, a mindfulness app that you download for free on your mobile phone. I'm talking about something that involves a bit of commitment. The other thing that we'd need to do is gather more data to convince people of the benefits of meditation. So we'd need more access to scanning technology. First of all, to look at what the immediate benefits were, as in Sarah's study, and then to monitor people on their consciousness journey through life. If we do those two things, as I say, I think meditation could go viral. If that happened, the NHS could save an enormous amount of money because we'd have far fewer people suffering from these stress-related diseases. And the other thing that could happen is that we could realize my personal dream of a happier, healthier society, which is richer in every respect. I think that's something worth striving for. Idealistic, you might say. Maybe. But if we can put a man on the moon, why can't we do these two simple things? It's not rocket science. Thank you.